speed of wave on string. Okay, so now let's solve a couple of questions related to Newton's formula or to Laplace correction. So example 15.4. Okay, example 15.4. Right. So it says that estimate the speed of sound in air. Again, estimate. Right? So, like I mentioned earlier, this means that the authors expect that we will use Newton's formula. Actually, we will do it by both. Right? So that you know how much of a difference does it really make. So, first of all, we will use Newton's formula to find speed of sound in air at standard temperature and pressure. Okay, at standard temperature and pressure. Right, so T we are going to take it as 298, isn't it? That's what STP is? No, that is NTP. 273. Okay. Right, so T is 273 Kelvin, and it is given that mass of 1 mole of air is 29.0 into 10 raised to minus 3 kg. Okay. Alright, this is clear. So let's use this. So what's the Newton's formula for speed of sound? It will be V equal to under root R capital T by M0. M0 stands for molar mass again. Right? Molar mass is already given in the question. Mass of 1 mole of air is this much. Right? Thankfully, we don't have to worry about anything at all. Let's just put the values. So this is going to be R 8.314. Assuming you have calculator, shouldn't be a problem. 273 divided by molar mass given 29.0 into 10 raised to minus 3. Come on, do this calculation. Hurry up, everyone. Again, be careful of the power, because if the power is odd, you cannot take square root, so you'll have to shift it. Hurry up. Come on, everyone. Okay. Rohan, that's not the correct answer. Be careful with the powers. It will be 10 raised to 2, not 10 raised to minus. So I am getting a couple of answers like 279.7 or something. Okay, 279.7 meter per second. Right? So that's, you could say, about 280. Right? This is about 280. So this is what Newton's formula gives us. Right? This is what Newton's formula gives us. Clear so far? Right? There is nothing else but calculation. Okay? Fine. Now, what about Laplace formula? Instead of doing it by Newton's formula, let's do it by the Laplace correction idea like this. Okay, let's do it by this. So now if we are talking about air, again, you already know the composition of air, isn't it? You know that air is 78% nitrogen and about 20%, no, 70% nitrogen and 20% oxygen or so, right? Okay, I'm sorry if I have mistaken the numbers. So basically you can say that air is kind of a diatomic molecule, yes or no? Do you realize that air can be considered to be diatomic molecule overall, because a lot of it is nitrogen and a lot of it is oxygen, right? The rest is very little. Clear? You understood why I am saying it's like a diatomic molecule? Okay, so we will take gamma for diatomic. What is gamma for diatomic ideal gas? What is gamma for diatomic ideal gas? Come on everyone. What is gamma for diatomic ideal gas? Not 5 by 2. Not 7 by 2 also I think. Gamma is 1 plus 2 by F. Diatomic molecule, rigid, ideal, has 5 degrees of freedom. 3 translation and 2 in rotation. So put that here. So gamma is going to be 7 by 5. Okay, gamma will be 7 by 5. So if we write that here. Okay, so this is going to be the same thing that you got here. Alright, this is going to be the same thing. So if you have done it right, then the answer will be just 279.7 multiplied by root of 7 by 5. Can you do it? Can you do it, everyone? ને કેલ્ક્યુલેટર જરાક ચલાવો બે જણને જ આન્સર આવે એટલા કેલ્ક્યુલેશન માં. That is not a good sign, everyone. LCM, F is 5. Put 5 here. 5 plus 2 upon 5. So 7 by 5. Ami, I think you forgot to take square root. You forgot to take square root of 7 by 5. So are you getting something like 330? Close to 330? Are you getting something close to 330? Yes. So this is the actual measured speed of sound, right? The measured speed of sound in dry air that is without humidity, right? The speed of sound in dry air at 0 degrees Celsius is roughly 330 meter per second, which matches with this fairly well. So that's why I was saying that Laplace formula is better, because it gives you a proper answer. On the other hand, this is like close to 280, right? So there is a error. Okay, there is error over here. Okay, so that's why the Laplace formula is the preferred version. So I'm not saying Newton's formula is right. Again, I'm not saying Newton's formula is right. This is wrong, no doubt about it. Okay, there's no doubt about it, right? But we still sort of are giving it credit because Newton was the first one to think about it like that. Okay, and then Laplace just modified Newton's idea a little bit and gets to the correct answer, right? So that's why it is. But yes, have no doubt that this is not correct. This is correct. Okay. So that's why I really hate it when someone says estimate and uses Newton's formula, because it's not true really. Okay, estimates are supposed to be close, right? This is not that close where you can, be happy with that kind of error. Okay, anyways, let's go to the exercise. Let's go to the exercise now. Okay, we have a few questions related to things that we have been discussing in the last few lectures. Let's start. So exercise question 1. Exercise question 1. Trust me, they have really messed up the order of questions here, but anyways. Okay, exercise question 1. A string of mass 2.5 kg is under tension of 200 Newton. Length of the stretched string is 20 meter. Right? Now, what's given is, suppose this is a string. Right? Okay, what's the mass of string? 2.5 kg. It's a fairly long string, I would say. Right? And length of the stretched string is 20.0 meter. Okay, this is the length of the string. Well, the tension, that is somehow maybe by attacking some block here, let's say whose mass is 20 kg, it will give a tension equal to 200 Newton. Did you understand? Assuming G is 10. There is a tension of 200 Newton in the spring. If a transverse jerk, that is a pulse, like a wave pulse, okay? So like I was mentioning here, suppose you hit it over here, okay, by a string or by a ruler or by a scale or something, right? Over here a transverse pulse is generated. So this transverse pulse will move like this, right? Okay, and the particles will oscillate. Okay, so we have to find if the transverse jerk is struck at one end of string, how long will it take to reach here? So let's say this is B and this is A. So basically the question is, how much time will the wave take? Right? How much time will the wave take to go from A to B? This is the question. Question clear? Okay? So the idea is that we know the distance that this has to travel. How much distance? 20 meters. Right? We have had a similar question earlier. So distance that the wave travels from A to B is 20 meters. So if you want to find how much time interval or time will it take to go from this end to that end, there is one more quantity that we need to know. What do you think? Distance from here to here is given. We want to find time interval. Which is the quantity that we need to know to solve this problem? Which is the other quantity that we need to know? Speed or velocity. Okay, yeah, wave speed or wave velocity. Fine. So we will find wave speed. Okay. So all formulas are with square roots. I can safely write square root over there. But now we should think, which kind of wave is it? Transverse or longitudinal? Which kind of wave is it? Read the question. Come on. Transverse or longitudinal? Okay, transverse. So under root T by mu, transverse wave on a string. Let's put values. 200 mu, mass per unit length, 2.5 upon 20. 2.5 upon 20. Okay, so this is going to be 4000 upon 2.5, and then you have to take square root. Okay, alright, so this is going to be square root of 1600. Okay, I divided it. This is going to be square root of 1600. Alright, so 40 meter per second. Clear? 40 meter per second is clear? Yes, Amrita, correct answer. Very good. Okay, so if the wave speed is 40 meter per second and it has to travel 20 meter, then how much time interval will it take? How much time interval will it take, everyone? Yeah, 0.5 seconds. Okay, done. So time required to go from one end to the other end is 0.5 seconds. Alright, let's go to the next question. Number 2. I'm erasing everything on the board. Number 2. Okay. It's a similar idea. A stone dropped from top of a tower of height 300 meter splashes into water of a pond near the base of tower. Okay. Right. Nice natural landscape here. So let's say there is a tower. How high is the tower? 300 meter. Okay. And obviously ignoring air resistance and all that. Okay, and at the near the base of this tower there is a pond. So there is a water body. So if you drop a stone into this, it will splash. Okay. So when is the splash heard? At the top. That is, suppose this is you. Okay, you have dropped the stone equal to or bigger than your size. So when is the splash heard? At the top. Given that the speed of sound in air is 340 meter per second, this is speed of sound, 340 meter per second, and we have to take g as 9.8. Okay, बड़े दुख की बात है. Let's start. So first thing to understand is when the stone will hit the water surface, the splash will be generated. That is, sound will be generated. Then do you realize that then the sound wave will travel up. Is this clear or not clear? Is this clear or not clear, everyone? So the idea is simple. That total time that we have to find is equal to time for which stone falls, okay, from, let's say, the point A to the point B, and then sound will be generated, then the time required by the sound to go from B to A. Clear? And this is time required by stone to go from A to B. Absolutely clear? Right. So this I am leaving for you. Okay, I am sure I have taught this very well enough that you can find how much time will the stone take to go from A to B. Right? Okay, now let's focus on this. How much time will sound take to go from B to A? It's a similar question. You know, the first one, there also the distance was given. That distance, wave is traveling from here to there. So how much distance is the wave traveling? 300. Clear or not? Sound wave is traveling 300 distance. If you would divide it by speed of sound, then do you realize that you will get the time that sound takes? Yes or no? Everyone, is that clear? Okay. Because why are we including this? Okay, there is a question. Why are we including this here? Right? Because we want to answer it in this form. Listen. Okay, we want to answer it in this form that after dropping the stone, in how much time? After dropping the stone, in how much time do we hear the splash? Okay, we want to answer it like that. Is this clear? Is this clear? We want to answer it in this form. Okay, that's why. Otherwise, there is no need. Suppose the question would be just find time that sound takes to go from water to you. Then we only need to find this. Understood? Everyone? Okay? Well, so now if we just find this, okay, this one you can easily do by kinematics. So I am giving this to you now. Right? I am giving this to you. Okay? So do you realize that such a simple or a weird experiment, actually you find it weird, I know. This doesn't even look like an experiment. Suppose you climb up on a tall tower, let's say, right? And there is no need for water to be there, let me tell you. Right? Suppose even if this was ground, do you realize that when it will hit the ground, it would make a loud sound? Okay, if you drop something heavy from a big height, when it hits the ground, it will make some sound. Yes or no? So if you climb up on a tower and drop a stone, and then you find out in how much time you are hearing that one, then based on that you can find temperature of air. I know this might sound like ridiculous. What does all this have to do with temperature? But can you relate all this with temperature? Can you relate all this with temperature? Or not? Yes or no? Come on. Yes or no? Okay, very few of you have been able to relate it. Let me clarify. See, in that case, you wouldn't know speed of sound. Okay, this would be unknown. You get what I'm saying? But you can find out. Okay, you can do a measurement. The moment you drop it, you start your stopwatch. Okay, take some time, and now you have a loud sound. So you measure that total time. This is measured. Right? This is measured. And this can be fairly calculated using kinematics. Okay, equations of kinematics. Then the remaining time must be the time that sound takes. The remaining time must be the time that sound takes. You understand what I'm saying here? Okay? And then by using that you can find speed of sound. Of course you should be able to measure height. Okay, so if you find speed of sound, do you realize you can find temperature? Yes or no? Do you realize you can find temperature? See how strange physics can be, right? Of course, there are many factors that may cause error here, so you have to be careful. It's not like it's child's play to do all this. Right? Okay, but this is definitely one valid method to find out temperature of air by dropping some object from a tower. Well, never mind. Let's go to the next question. 15.3. Okay, start reading the question. I see that two cases are mentioned, I think. Okay. Well, so it's given that a steel wire has length 12 meter and a mass 2.10 kg. So we are doing 15.3. So here is a steel wire. How much length does it have? 12 meter. And mass is 2.10. Okay. Now, what should be the tension in the wire so that speed of transverse wave on it, so let's say by some means, we are giving some tension and we are finding that if we create a transverse wave, it travels with what speed? With speed equal to speed of sound in dry air at 20 degrees Celsius, which is 343 meter per second. Did you understand? The speed of transverse wave here, the speed of transverse wave here should be same as speed of sound. Okay, at 20 degrees Celsius and in dry air, that is, it's going to be 343 meter per second. Understood? This speed of transverse wave on the string is 343 meter per second. Question clear? It's only the question here, right? Solution is very easy. Question is clear or not clear? If it's not, I suggest you read it 2 or 3 more times. Okay, especially the last line. Speed of transverse wave on wire equals the speed of sound in dry air, which is 343. So that's why I am putting this is 343. How to solve? Just write the formula and okay, you know how to do it next. Fine. Alright. I am erasing everything. Hopefully you have noted whatever you wanted to. Raise your hand when you are done. Raise your hand when you are done. I'm going to erase this. Don't know, Raj. I didn't even bother finding. Okay, fine. Alright. No problem. Don't say sorry. You found it in enthusiasm. On the other hand, I am being extremely lazy and I didn't even bother trying to find what will be key. Okay. Right. Now, let's go to question 7. Question 7. I think why worry about all this? Okay, let's do it. Never mind. It's very simple. Okay, I wasn't feeling like doing it, but anyways. So it says a hospital uses an ultrasonic scanner to locate tumors in a tissue, right? I'm sure you know that there's something called ultrasound, right? So that is an ultrasonic scanner, right? Which will throw waves into your body, okay, and the waves are reflected, and based on that, it shows you an image of what could be there inside your body, right? So, what is the wavelength of sound? What is the wavelength of sound in tissue? Tissue is not tissue paper. Okay? Tissue is the body's tissue. Okay, in which the speed of sound, it is given that speed of sound in that tissue is how much? 1.7 kilometer per second. Yeah, this is normal. You know, sound is a very particular kind of wave where speed of sound is less in gases, but in solids and liquids the speed of sound is quite high, right? So this is 1700 meter per second compared to just before this in one question we were talking about 343 meter per second. Do you realize what I am saying? This was speed of sound in air and this is speed of sound in a solid. Understood what I said? Okay? Sound speed is very high in solid. Fine. So it says that this is speed of sound and operating frequency of scanner. Right? The machine is emitting waves of how much frequency? 4.2 megahertz. MHz. Megahertz. Mega, that is how much? 10 raised to. Mega is what? 10 raised to. Come on, everyone, very basic. Mega is 10 raised to 6. Correct. Mega is 10 raised to 6. Okay? So it's a fairly simple question. You see, source is the machine or the scanner. Right? Source is emitting this frequency. And again, let me repeat what I have told you about frequency. Frequency depends only on the source, not on medium. Do you remember that? Frequency depends only on source. So whether this wave goes in the tissue or in air or anywhere, frequency will always remain the same, whether it goes in air or tissue or in fluid or in any kind of liquid inside. Okay, so water, etc., blood, blah blah blah. Understood? Does not depend on medium. Clear or not clear? Frequency does not depend on medium, depends only on source. So fine, frequency is same everywhere, speed is given, speed of wave, and we want to find wavelength. What relation? What relation? What relation to be used? Come on everyone. Between F, V and lambda. What is the relation? Yes, V equal to F lambda. Okay, see, I could have said that immediately, but that's not my style. You know that I try to explain whatever is going on in this practical question. બાકી ફોર્મ્યુલા ગોખીને આટલું તો બધા કહી દે F equal v equal to F lambda મૂકી દો તો થઈ જાય. Okay, but that's not a good way to solve question. Well, now Okay. Let's go to the next theory now. Okay, let's go to the next theory. And this theory is superposition principle for waves, okay, of any kind actually, not just transverse wave, not just sound, not just longitudinal waves, all kinds of waves that you can think of. Okay, superposition principle for waves. Now, I think we have talked about superposition principle in gravitation. The basic idea is that when there are multiple factors or multiple things, they don't interfere with each other. That's the superposition principle's basic idea. So, what does that mean? Suppose that there is one string. Okay, right? And on this string, there are two waves. Let's say on this string there are two wave pulses traveling. Okay, maybe in opposite direction, maybe in same direction, all that doesn't really matter. For simplicity, right now let's consider them to be in opposite direction. Okay? So let's say these are two wave pulses which are traveling in opposite direction. Right? And they are such that suppose if there was only first wave pulse and not the second, okay? For the time being, let's say there is only first wave pulse. Right? Suppose there is only the first wave pulse arriving at the point P. Okay? Right? Then at particular time, suppose at some time t equal to t, it reaches P. Okay, at some particular time t equal to t, it reaches P and P has displacement y equal to y1. P has displacement y equal to y1. Let's say which you can sort of give by any kind of wave equation. Suppose we give it by this kind of wave equation. Okay, let's say, keeping it very simple, right? No need of numbers anymore. Suppose this value at time t equal to t was 2m. Suppose I'm saying that this whole value y1, I'm writing 1 for number 1. Okay, right? Let's say it was 2m at some time. Now suppose that there is another source on this side, okay, which is also generating another wave, right? And let's say P is kind of at the midpoint, for example, simplicity case again, right? So P is here again on the same string, and this second one will give at time t equal to t, it will give P a displacement y equal to y2 this time, which is suppose equal to a2 sine kx. Actually I sort of made a mistake here. We should write minus because this traveling towards right side. Sorry. And here plus omega t plus phi 02. Okay? Right? Let's say it's giving you the other displacement. And suppose this displacement t is plus 1 mm. Again, plus 1 mm kind of indicating upward. Right? Why 1 mm? I am taking examples. Please don't ask why is this 2 and why is this 1. Okay? So these are examples. So what this means is when there was only one wave at this time, this would get 2 mm displacement. P point. Understood? That is when this wave will arrive here at time t, this P will have upward displacement by 2 mm. That is, this wave pulse will push P up by 2 mm. Clear? Meaning is clear? Okay, at that particular time, remember, I am not talking about amplitude. At this particular time, P would have risen from here by 2 mm. Just like that, in this case, suppose the first wave is not there, and in this case, this wave pulse comes here, then it would have risen P point by 1 mm. Did you understand? So when this wave comes here, the point P at this time t would rise by 1. So now, do you realize that if both of them would be on the same string at the same situation, or in the same situation, that is combination of both. What do I mean? We take a string, okay, let's say P is the midpoint. Over here there is source S1, over here there is source S2. Both the sources start emitting a wave pulse from here and from here, okay, just like this at the same time. So do you realize that both of them will come together at P, yes or no? Both of them will come together at P, yes or no? What I am saying is that now this wave pulse will travel and this wave pulse will travel. So both of them will affect P. Did you get it? Both of them will affect P. Right? Okay, so in this case, the superposition principle says, that this wave will not interfere with that. What I mean to say is that first wave will simply ignore that there is something like second. It will do its job. What is its job? Its job is to give the point P a displacement of 2 mm upward. Did you understand? The first one, its job is to give the point P upward displacement of 2 mm. On the other hand, the second one will ignore the first one and its job is to give the point P an upward displacement of 1 mm. So what will P get? Well, P will get both added together. Did you understand? P will get both added together. That is, it will not get just y1, it will not get just y2, but it will show the effects of both the waves. Right? Which both waves? The one traveling from here and the one traveling from here. So both the waves give it that displacement. See, the idea is simple. If there was only one wave, the point P should have moved upward by 2 mm. But now on top of that, there is the second wave. So what's the role of second wave? It's to lift, it's to make rise the point P by 1 mm, suppose. So then first wave will make P go up by 2 mm, and then the second wave will make P go upwards by 1 mm more. Does that make sense? So ultimately the point P will go upwards by 3 mm. That's what I am saying. Right? That is, both the waves will add their displacements. Clear or not clear? Both the waves will add their displacements. Okay? If you think about it carefully, this is just like, have a look here. Do you remember superposition principle for gravitational force and all that? Like for example, there is a mass m1 and there is a mass m2 and there is a mass m3. Then if you want to find out how much force acts on m1, then you can just say that F11 is equal to F11 by 2 and F11 by 3. So when you want to find F11 by 2, you just have to ignore this, correct? You just have to worry about these two only, correct? That will give you F12. Right? And then similarly, when you want to find F13, you have to ignore this one because it doesn't affect it. Clear? Do you remember this idea from gravitation chapter? Right? So superposition principle works on the same idea in every chapter. It's that each contributing part, each contributing thing will play its role and simply ignore the others. That is, M2 will not think that, okay, M2 will not be affected by the presence of M3. That is, whether M3 is there or not, this force will always be minus G M1 M2 by R12 square R12 hat. Do you understand what I am saying? Whether M3 is present or not. this force will always be this. Just like that, whether the second wave is there or not, the first wave will always make P rise by 2m. Okay, and then similarly, whether the first wave is there or not, the second one will make rise by 1 mm. So first wave makes it rise by 2 mm, and then second wave must also do its job, so it will rise it by 1 mm more. Understood? So that's how it will get y equal to y1 plus y2 or y equal to 3 mm. Got it completely? Right? So basically it's not like, okay, wave 1 will say, hello wave 2, you are there, then I'm not going to do my job. It's not like that. Right? They don't interfere with each other. Right? So presence of second wave does not affect first wave. Right? Presence of second wave does not affect first wave and vice versa. That's what is superposition principle. Could we put all these symbols here? Yes. Of course, you can put it. Right? Okay? You can put all these over here. Then is it possible to simplify that? Sorry, not at all. What's the reason it's not possible to simplify? Because here everything might be different. Okay? Everything might be different. Because let me tell you, what if these sources have different frequencies? Suppose this has frequency f1 and this has frequency f2. Then here also you will have to write omega 1 and omega 2. Make sense? Okay, then automatically if omega is different, k will also be different. Phase difference different, amplitude different. You will not even be able to use any kind of trigonometry or any other mathematical relation. You get what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying or not? Okay, so in general form, we can write everything here, but it serves no purpose. So keep it simple. Superposition principle says that both the waves will do their job individually. Got it? Without bothering or without having any effect due to the other. Right? So total y will be equal to y1 plus y2, like that. Okay? The idea is clear? Superposition principle is nature's favorite. Let me tell you that. Okay, superposition principle comes everywhere. Right? Okay, fine. Now, would this be true? Would this be true even if one wave would be like this? Yes, still true. Only thing that would happen is that instead of y2 being positive, it would be something negative. Let's say suppose it is minus 0.5. You understand what I am saying? Instead of y2 being positive, it would be y2 being negative. But still the idea will remain same. Make sense? Yes or no? Okay. So let me tell you one interesting fact about this superposition principle or what it could do for us. Do you realize that suppose these waves are, let's say, exactly equal in amplitude, okay, let's say they are exactly equal in amplitude, frequency and wavelength, right? All of them equal. It's just that one is going this way, the other is going that way, right? Suppose one is going right side, okay, and it's positive in displacement, but the other one is going towards left side, and let's say it's negative in the displacement. So do you realize that when both the waves will come at the point P, do you realize that what happens is something like this? This is wave number 1 and this is wave number 2, and here is the point P. Right? So what will happen? Will point P go upwards or will point P go downwards? So basically if you think of numbers, then it's like this. Okay, one gives 2 mm, the other gives minus 2 mm. Then what do you think will happen to the point P? If first one tries to give displacement 2 mm, second one tries to give displacement minus 2 mm, what will happen to the point P? What do you think? Yes, Ankita, correct. Yes. So many of you got it right. It is that it will neither have upward displacement nor downward displacement. Right? It will neither have upward displacement nor downward displacement in this case. So what that basically means is kind of wave cancelled each other. Yes or no? Do you agree with what I have written? You could say that waves cancelled each other. Yes or no? Okay, what's going to follow is even more interesting. Sound is a wave. Is it possible to have something like this? Two sound waves cancel each other, like two sounds are produced, and when you are here and you are trying to listen to this, you don't hear anything because there are two sounds, the two sounds cancel each other. Is it possible? Is it possible? Think about it. Let's say from one side there is one speaker, from the other side there is another speaker which is playing sound, and if you stand at a particular spot, you don't hear anything. Well, you never know, right? Nature is very mysterious. Okay? So that's it. Think about what I told you right now. Can sound cancel each other? Right? We will gradually be going towards this idea later on, okay, as we study more and more, right? So for now, that's enough. The superposition principle. Goodbye, everyone.